Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is Arizona Hands and Voices. We are holding our What's Up Wednesday meeting tonight. My name is Heidi Klomhaus. I am the Executive Director for Arizona Hands and Voices, and I am also the Guide by Your Side Program Coordinator. So our goal tonight is to kind of give everybody out there a chance to match a face to the name and kind of hear a little bit about each one of us. And for any parents that are on the line to ask us any questions, and feel free to also comment on the live stream. We do have somebody monitoring that will feed me any questions that might come up or any comments. First of all, thank you for joining us tonight. And again, like I said, my name is Heidi Klomhaus. I am a hard of hearing adult myself. I was late identified at the age of 4 and started wearing hearing aids at the age of 4.5. 40 years ago, some of the systems that are in place now for early identification weren't quite what they should have been at that time. So, and there weren't a lot of resources that my parents could take advantage of. So I kind of grew up in this era of trying to figure it out myself and just doing the best that I could. I went through many, many years of speech therapy. I'm very blessed to have the speech that I have today with the degree of loss I have. Fast forward to today, I have 3 children. My oldest is age 24. My middle is 10, and my youngest is turning 7 next week. My 2 older children are typical hearing, and my youngest is hard of hearing like myself. She has a bilateral moderate to severe sensory neural hearing loss, so she wears hearing aids in both ears. Our journey with my daughter has been vastly different than that of mine when growing up, just because of the difference in resources and the difference of exposures that I've had myself as a parent, which is kind of the reason for us basically having this, is for you guys to learn some of those things and how empowered parents make a difference in the lives of the children that are growing up BHH. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call on Nedra to go ahead and introduce herself and talk a little bit about herself. Nedra, if you'll come on the screen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nejwa Gaddis. I have been a part of Hands and Voices for 6 years now. I have 3 children. My oldest is 13. She has typical hearing, and my 11-year-old and my 9-year-old were both born with a profound bilateral sensory neural hearing loss. They both are implanted with cochlear implants. Both of them had them at the age of 1. They are in 6th grade, well, actually going into middle school now, and one going into 4th grade, and they are mainstreamed in regular school. My journey started out just being a board member on Arizona Hands and Voices, and then I became the executive director for almost 6 years. I just missed that 6-year mark, and then decided to pursue some other interests, and Heidi's taken over and doing an amazing job, and I am now focused more on parent outreach and working with hospitals and screeners and doing some education and those kinds of things out in the community that I'm interested in. So I will say I got involved with Hands and Voices after my 3rd child was born, and with the first one I didn't really have that parent-to-parent connection for the first few years, and then I got more involved after Matthew was born with a hearing loss, and started connecting with families, and it's been an amazing experience being able to meet families from all over the country. I now have connected with probably almost every state. There's someone we know because of Hands and Voices and the connections we've made. My kids have been able to meet other kids from other states. Whenever we go to San Diego or Los Angeles for family trips, we meet up with the other families there, and so our kids are able to see not just kids here in Arizona that are like them, but kids all over the country that are like them and make connections. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. My daughter going into middle school was able to connect with another Hands and Voices mom's daughter in Nebraska, and they were able to Zoom with each other and give each other advice about middle school. It was really cool. So I've really just been blessed to be part of this group, this organization, and everything it's had to offer for the last 6 years. And we hope we can do the same for you. So we look forward to meeting some of you and getting together soon when all of this COVID-19 is over. We can have some in-person meetings again.
This is Heidi. Thank you for that, Nejwa. Next, I'm going to go ahead and call out on Tony, if you'll come up onto the screen.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Tony Vega. I'm a parent guide, a bilingual parent guide with Arizona Hands and Voices here in Tucson. What can I say? So I'm a mother of 3 kiddos. My oldest being Isabella, she's 11. Roman is 6, just turned 6. Nathaniel is 2. I started, I guess, my journey into this world with Isabella in 2009 when she was born hard of hearing. And I mean, like any first-time mom, you expect certain things. And of all the things that we could have ever expected to come along with Isabella, deafness was not one of those things. You know, for the first few months, I guess I was a mess for the first few months. Had a lot of emotions. I was very sad. I grieved for many months, just not really understanding kind of what we're gonna go through. It was just a lot of fear. Now I know that a lot of those feelings that I was feeling were very normal. Being affiliated and working for Hands and Voices now has really blessed me, just being able to meet families and being able to meet other moms and other dads has really kind of let me accept and know that all those feelings that I felt, you know, all that grief, all that guilt that I had in the beginning was so very normal. Although the internet was around during that time, I didn't use it to connect with other families. I mean, connecting with other families wasn't even a thought that I had. It was just kind of like survival mode for so many months, trying to get everything figured out and advocating for my child without even knowing, you know. But I knew nothing. My husband and I knew nothing about deafness, anything about hearing aids, cochlear implants, hard of hearing, communication choices. We knew nothing. So all I knew was that my husband's mom worked at the deaf residential school here in Arizona, and that was kind of like the extent of my knowledge. After those first few years after diagnosis, you know, hearing aids and cochlear implants and speech therapy, and you know, this roller coaster of things, I've learned a lot. And one of the things that I've learned is that connecting with other families and having resources available to you, and sometimes being able to connect with other families and other people who have gone through what you have gone through, it just makes a difference. For Isabella, her journey started with, you know, diagnosis, early intervention. We had great early interventionists and great resources in the beginning. And those people, one person specifically, her early intervention teacher, really opened up my eyes to looking for other families like ours, to advocating for my daughter, because I remember her saying once, you know, she's going to be an adult, she's going to grow up and she's going to be happy and she can go to school and she will be successful. And just hearing those words come from someone else, I think that really changed the journey that I was on. So that was one of the main reasons why, when offered the opportunity to join Hands and Voices, that was one of the reasons why I did, because meeting other families like mine, meeting other moms and dads and other professionals that were there for my child to help learn. I'm still learning, I learn every day. That's one of my favorite parts of my job, is learning things that can help Isabella now, things that can help her in the future, and things that I can pass on to other families. That's one of my favorite parts. But just knowing that we have built a community, just like Nejwa was saying, I hope in the future for my daughter to be able to travel with us and to be able to meet other, friends and other people like her. That just makes all the difference. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for that, Tony. Thank you for opening up and sharing. You made some really good points that I just want to kind of touch on as far as, it's a lifelong journey. Being deaf or hard of hearing isn't something that stops after a certain age. And sometimes what you know when your child is 3 is different when they're 5, 10, a teenager, or, transitioning to middle school, transitioning to high school, transitioning to adulthood. All of those things, the knowledge that we have and the knowledge that we need changes over time. So it's really touching to hear you say that and to acknowledge that, being a part of that journey and learning not only for other families, but learning for yourself. Because even myself, I learn continuously every day. I've learned more and more about myself as a DHH adult. So thank you for sharing that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and call on Liliana. You'll come up onto the screen.
Hi guys, my name is Liliana and I am a bilingual parent guide with Arizona Hands and Voices as well as the board secretary. I've been with Hands and Voices a little over a year now. I am a mom of 3. My daughter Sophia, who's 7, my son Giovanni, who's 4, and JJ, who's 2. My Giovanni, my 4-year-old, he is hard of hearing plus. So he has a genetic disorder that causes developmental delay and some other medical challenges, in addition to having a bilateral mild moderate hearing loss. He wears hearing aids and amazingly keeps them on all day with no issues. Which is not always the case. So I guess we're one of the lucky ones. Our journey began, he did not pass his newborn hearing screen, but his ABR results 3 months later were normal. So we just kept monitoring with the ENT because there was some middle ear concerns. But at 2.5, we did another ABR, a sedated ABR, and he did show to have a mild moderate hearing loss. So he received hearing aids soon after, and by that time we were already in early intervention because of his genetic disorder and his developmental delay. So we got set up with a hearing teacher right away through EAI, and it made a huge difference in communication. So when we found out that he had a hearing loss, we were too focused on having him walk because he wasn't walking at that stage. So that was my main concern. And now we shift over to his hearing loss, but it really made a huge impact because we didn't know how impeded his communication was. And so it changed a lot for us having that knowledge, and like Tony and like Nejwa, and I knew nothing about hearing loss. So it was a new concept for me to learn and something to add to the list of other medical challenges that he had. But when he started school and when I got involved with Arizona Hands and Voices, it just made a huge difference on having that parent connection. Because like Tony, I didn't reach out for to other parents right away because I was just focused on survival mode, just getting him to his appointments and his therapies, and but just having that parent connection once we started has made a huge difference in just everyday little things that you don't even really think about until it comes up. So, like, hey, do beanies impact his hearing aids if you wear a beanie when it's cold? Or what was like FM receivers, so FM systems, and like knowing what an integrated receiver was. Like I had no idea until I asked Heidi about it. So and it's something that led me to reach out to our audiologist. So, and even though the questions to ask our audiologist, like I didn't really know what to ask them, but reaching out to other parents and them giving me ideas has really helped out in that process. And just knowing that it's really cliche, but knowledge is power. And I've learned so much now, and I still have a lot to learn because, I mean, he's barely going to be 5, but just I'm very grateful to have found this organization and getting all the help that I've received. And I hope that I am able to help families, English and Spanish speaking, and families who have children who are deaf or hard of hearing plus, just to reach out and to let them know that, we're always going to have something to relate to. So to not feel afraid or scared or say, hey, no, their story is not quite the same as mine, because there's always something that you can relate to us. So thanks.
Thank you for that, Liliana. I'm kind of tearing up. You guys are making me emotional. It really tears at my heartstrings, hearing about how connecting and learning from each other, the impact that it has, and what that means for yourself as a parent raising your deaf and hard of hearing child. Because that's really what this is about. What Hands and Voices is about. We're here to make those positive influences on families, letting them know that they're not alone in their journey, and know that they have somebody to connect to ask questions. Even it's oftentimes we feel like a question might be silly in a way, or it's not something that you want to ask your audiologist or your EI provider or things like that. But asking another parent, we're like, oh yeah, you know what? And because we've been there and we get it, and we understand that awkwardness and that feeling of being unsure. So I really appreciate how impacted everybody is by being connected. So sorry, I'm really getting emotional. So with that, I'm gonna move on. We'll go to Lisa, if you will, please come up on the screen. And you need to turn your mic on, hun.
Thanks. Okay. Hello, my name is Lisa Pettit, and I am a parent guide with Hands and Voices, and I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm also on the board. And I have been with Hands and Voices for a very long time, about 12 or 13 years, I believe. And I have a little bit of a different journey than the others, because I have 2 children. I have a daughter that's 15 and she is hearing, and then I have a son who is 20 and he has bilateral sensory neural hearing loss and auditory neuropathy. And he was born very premature. He was born at 28 weeks and he was in the NICU for 7 weeks, but he did pass his newborn screening. So he was late diagnosed when he was 4. So he was delayed in other things. So he did receive speech therapy and occupational therapy, and he did get physical therapy. So he was already getting therapies, but he did pass his newborn screening. And then they tested him later, and they were worried that he might have some hearing loss, but he didn't really, he wouldn't really sit still, and so it was kind of hard to test him. And they didn't want to do an ABR because he was on a heart monitor because he had sleep apnea. And he would respond. So it was really hard to tell. And his speech therapist kept saying, he speaks too well to have hearing loss. So it was very confusing. And so finally, when he was 4 years old, they did the ABR, and we found out that he did have the hearing loss and auditory neuropathy. So, and what happened was, I guess he learned, he taught himself to read lips so well that he would respond, because he would read our lips and he'd be able to, respond and everything. And then with the speech therapy, that really helped him. And so thank goodness for that, because without that, I think he would have been, really behind. And so he got hearing aids when he was 4.5, and that has really helped him a lot. And he's been mainstreamed, and so he's done pretty well. And so by then, I decided then that I did, want to have, I did want to reach out and right away and meet other families. And so that was kind of when Hands and Voices was first starting. And so my audiologist told me about Hands and Voices. So I started going to the picnics and meeting families, because we didn't know anyone that had hearing loss. And so it was just so great to meet other families, because, I didn't know anything. And so I had so many questions, and to meet other families, and it was just amazing. And for Riley to be able to see kids that, were like him, and that, because, he didn't know any kids either. And so that was really great. And like Tony said, I mean, I learn things every day too. I mean, every day. I mean, that was 12 years ago, and I still, I just learn things every day, and I'm still learning. And because, you go through these different stages, and different things come up all the time, and it's just so great to be able to, get that feedback, and, ask questions and get advice, from people that have been through it. And, so it's just amazing. And since Riley's been mainstreamed, it's really great for him to be able to be around other kids, and, to see older kids that have been, when he was growing up, to see the older kids and, say, oh, they can do this. And, just seeing older adults, and, that they're, see, they're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And it's just really amazing. And then a few years later was when Guide by Your Side was starting. And the same audiologist, she said, this program's starting, and I think you'd be a really great, parent guide. And so she encouraged me to apply, and I did, and I've been a parent guide ever since. And it's just really, rewarding to, share what I've learned, and, resources, and just getting to meet the families. And so I really enjoy my job, and so I hope that I can, give, help people with what I've learned, and learn from other families, and just, it's been really great. So anyway, that's my turn.
Thank you for that, Lisa. And whoever, I don't know the name of your audiologist, but whoever they were, we are very grateful, because you have been a treasure all these years. So we're gonna, in the interest of time, we're gonna move on and go to Angie. If you will come up onto the screen, please. This is Heidi. Give us just a moment. We're going to make sure that the interpreter can see and hear Angie. Okay, now she's ready. Perfect.
Hi, everybody. This is Angie. I am a deaf guide for about a year for Hands and Voices in Tucson. So my journey started, well, I am deaf. I am a deaf person myself. I was born into a hearing family. I'm the only deaf person in my family. But just like Heidi, you know, way back then they didn't have screenings, newborn screenings. So my parents just thought I was, you know, that I had normal hearing until I was about 1.5. They started to notice that I wasn't really communicating. I was having a lot of temper tantrums, and my mom was just not feeling right. She felt like something was wrong. So she took me to the audiologist, and sure enough, they confirmed that I had a profound hearing loss. And so from then on, you know, we started with hearing aid use. I just used one. I don't know why they had only one at that time. I don't know if it was because I was profound. I really depended a lot on lip reading. I had a lot of speech therapy until about 12 years old. And so I'm lucky I have pretty clear speech. I was always in oral programs at schools. I did not learn to sign until about 8 years old. And then I picked up sign language on the bus with other deaf schools. They were going to different schools, the deaf school. So I started to pick up sign language, and I would get home and I'd start signing to my mom, and she started to realize, oh, wow. She decided to take some classes herself. But it didn't last very long. You know, when we would go out and play, and my mom would want me to teach her sign language, and I didn't want to, you know, I wanted to play. But then, you know, we spoke a lot in my household, but I needed eye contact in order to do that because my hearing aids were not very beneficial to me. So it was really pretty difficult. So anyways, and then I became a mother myself. And I have 2 children, both have hearing loss. And I was shocked, even though I know I'm deaf myself, but I didn't expect that I would have children with hearing loss because there was no deaf in my family. And and the reasons why I'm deaf was never really determined. So, I could have been born deaf, or I could have become deaf later. You know, maybe it was progressive, but my son is 16 years old, and he did not pass his screening. And so that was different. And then 2 months later, we did the bear and determined that he was deaf. And in the hospital, they thought maybe he was premature, about 5 weeks premature. And they thought maybe he had fluid in his ears. And they said, just go home and we'll see if, you know, that dissipates and his hearing comes back. You know, I was a new mom, so I wasn't really grieving. I was just more confused. You know, I thought because he's born early, you know, those are the reasons. That's what it's the explanation for it. But also his father's deaf, but his father has another child from another marriage that's hearing. So I, you know, thought the chances of us having a deaf kid are very slim. So after that, the ABR, we went to CHIC in Tucson over at ASTB, the Center for Hearing Impaired Children, and we got involved with early intervention. We had home visits, and that did help a lot. As a new mom, you know, learning new things and navigating this journey was different. And then his father was against cochlear implants, and I was kind of like, you know, I've noticed that the technology is really advanced, and hearing aids did not help me. And he's also profoundly deaf, and I didn't want him to go through what I did, you know, depending completely on lip reading and struggling. And I wanted him to have access to both sound and sign language, both, you know. So finally his dad was willing to allow him to undergo CIs. And that was the best thing we'd ever done, because he's bilingual. He has both languages and both worlds. He's doing great, and they're involved in the music school program, and I've seen a lot of involvement. You know, it's been a wonderful experience for him. And there's a lot of caring people. And I know, I mean, it helps me, even though I'm deaf. I learned a lot, but I learned about speech therapy and things like that. But as a mom on the outside looking in, you know, I needed some different type of support and help. And I found it here. So then my second child was born, my daughter, and 3 years later, and she passed. She's now 13, but she passed her screening. And so, you know, we went along with everything, and until she was in about, no, not preschool, but like a Head Start program, she did not pass the OAE test. And it was like pass or fail, that's it. And we got an F. And so I was like, oh boy. So she was actually, so then she was diagnosed as, you know, kind of hard of hearing at age 3. And I was like, wow, you know, that's hard of hearing. That's a different experience, you know, hearing aids. She hears pretty well. One ear has almost normal hearing, and the left ear is severely, she's got a severe loss in it. So her needs and her issues are completely different than my son's and different than mine. So we have that's been a new journey for me. And so, and she also was in the preschool program, and I didn't have home services or home visits because we found out late with her, you know, it was at the time she was starting preschool. So, you know, it was a very different process, different experience with both of them. And now my daughter is, you know, she really doesn't like using her hearing aids. She'd rather just hear on her own. But she does read lips pretty well. And of course, she's bilingual. She also signs. So, you know, now, well, let me back up a little bit. When my son was younger, and my daughter also, when she was a baby, I was involved with Hands and Voices on the retreats over in the White Mountains. They had 2 weekend retreats, and we went. We really enjoyed them. And we went to different local picnics, and we've met people, and I really enjoyed that, seeing other families with deaf children. And I did notice that a lot of them would ask me a lot of questions, like, what's it like to be a deaf person, or what's it like, you know, and I have been able to share my experiences, you know, and then people will ask me questions about me and my family, you know, so that was really fun to be involved with. And then we stopped for a while. I got busy. I'm a teacher. I went back to work. I teach at the deaf school here. You know, and so the kids have gotten older, and I was like, oh, I had the opportunity to get involved with Hands and Voices again. Someone asked me about it and asked me about becoming involved and applying, and I started to realize, wow, this is the best opportunity for me to help parents and families who have gone through this, to see that it's going to be okay to be a deaf person, and that deaf people can and are successful, and these are the ways to advocate, and these are the resources, and here's how you network. It's so important. There are so many people that are not aware, or they're scared, or they're just anxious, you know. I'm here to show them that it's okay and it's going to be fine. And I've been a middle school teacher and an elementary school teacher, a high school teacher for a long time. And then I decided to go ahead and apply at a preschool job here on campus. I switched from my middle school to preschool, and it's because I enjoy working with the families. And I really enjoy the younger ages and being able to have an impact on their early stages in life, or their early stages of learning and their development. So I'm excited about this opportunity. I feel like I can contribute a lot, as well as myself learning a lot of things additionally. Like Lisa said, we learn every day, especially with all the unique things that happen and come up in technology and all these different opportunities. It's very exciting. So that's it. I look forward to all of our interactions in the future.
Thank you so much, Angie. We're going to move right along and go to Delight. If you'll join the screen, please.
Hello, I'm Delight. I am a deaf and hard of hearing guide with Arizona Hands and Voices. My journey started a very long time ago. I was born hearing, the sixth of 7 kids. And I had started talking. I had developed early. And then before I was 2, my mom noticed that I had stopped talking. And I was not responding to her attempts to get my attention when I'd walk around. And so she got me tested and found that I had mild to moderate hearing loss, bilateral sensory nerve hearing loss. So when I was 3, I got my first hearing aids. And then I was enrolled at the Idaho State School for the Deaf and Blind. I went to the preschool and kindergarten program. and I started out with total communication, which is signing and speaking at the same time. And so I went there for 3 years, and the school said that I was progressing ahead of my peers, and I needed to go into the public school system instead, which is called mainstreaming. And so my parents took me out of the deaf school, and I went to the local public school. I used an FM system with a lot of loops that go into my ears, and the teacher wore a microphone, and that is how I got along in class. I relied on my hearing, and I spoke for myself. And moving right along, I had gone back to the deaf school 1 year when I was in 7th grade. And it was a different experience for me because I grew up the only deaf person in the entire school, the entire town, as far as I know. And so I didn't know many kids like me. So going to the deaf school was a great experience for me socially, but the education was not on par for me. So I went back to the mainstreaming school. And then when I was 16, I started noticing I wasn't hearing as well as I used to. I wasn't hearing my friends as good. And I told my mom my concern. And so we went to see an ENT. And he said that my hearing loss is progressively getting worse. I am now profoundly deaf in this ear, no hearing aid. I use 1 hearing aid in this ear. And I can still use that. And when I was a senior, I had gotten tired of relying on FM systems, and I was concerned about going to college. Imagine sitting in a room full of 200-300 students, and how was I going to hear my instructor? So at that point, I decided to start using sign language interpreters, and so I could get used to the idea. And it was difficult. It was not easy. It was a struggle, but I made it through. I got to college, and that was a life changer for me. There was a lot of other deaf young adults that were just like me. They had grown up mainstreamed in the deaf school. They signed, they spoke, a lot of variety, and I became part of a community. And I found my deaf identity as a deaf person, and I have been involved in that world ever since. I met my husband. He is completely deaf, and we got married. And we have 4 kids. I have Moana, who's 10. Soraya, she's 8. Gabriel is almost 7, and AJ, she's 3. When Gabriel was born, we found he had unilateral hearing loss. And surprisingly in the same year. So because my husband and I are both deaf, we sign, and I speak at home. All our kids sign. We thought, well, that's okay. We know what it's like. Everything will be easy. And because he had unilateral hearing loss, he did not qualify for any really intervention services or anything like that. So I basically took care of everything myself. It wasn't until he went to kindergarten that I realized that it wasn't as simple as I thought. He would have struggles with understanding his classmates in class. He would have listening fatigue when he came home from school, so he would be easily upset and agitated. And I began to realize that I needed to do something for him, and I needed to find him friends that were his age, that were deaf or were going through the same struggles as he was. And so I reached out, asking around, and the Deaf Mentor Program coordinator told me about Hands and Voices. And it just happened to be at the same time that they were looking for deaf and hard of hearing guides. And so I thought I'd apply and see what this organization was all about. And it was everything that I wanted it to be. It was an organization that allowed me to connect with families that had children who were deaf and hard of hearing, and that my son could meet them and be a part of that community. So that helped. That made a big difference. Well, this should not have saved me for last. We were able, I love working with Arizona Hands and Voices, meeting families who are asking the same questions that my mom asked, who ask the same questions that I do. And I love being able to help and to be a part of that, and to give the parents some sense of positivity and hope that their child will be just fine with their hearing loss. There'll be challenges, but they'll power through it, and they'll be able to make it through with all the support and love they get from their parents and families and all the support systems that are out there. And I'm very grateful to reach out to those families, especially the Latino families. I've had a lot of fun meeting them and talking with them. And I really hope to be able to meet more of you and to talk with all of you and to be a part of your family.
Thank you so much, Delight. Yeah, I think we're all a little emotional as we start talking about ourselves. And I will say, I'm very impressed with this group. You all kind of just dived right in and got very open and vulnerable right away, and I appreciate that. I thought that I was going to have to prompt the conversation along with asking questions, so I kept my introduction very short. Um, you know, my journey is kind of similar in the beginning as Angie and Delight, as far as, um, the recognition of being deaf or hard of hearing later, not being identified at birth. And I had parents that were not very involved and did not seek resources. Um, I was very much left to just kind of figure it out for myself. The extent of what my parents did do was tell me, if you don't want to be treated any different, then you work harder at it, which meant, I needed to work harder to in my speech therapy, and I had to fit into the hearing world and put myself in all the positions that I needed to be to get along and function well. So I catered to everybody around me rather than knowing how to advocate myself for myself and know what opportunities there are for a deaf and hard of hearing person, especially in the school system. But I did very well. So on one hand, I'm very thankful for my parents for doing that, because it made me very self-sufficient, and I was able to be very successful because of it. But it's not like that for everybody. So when I found Hands and Voices, it was kind of mind-blowing to me, because I was kind of already doing something on my own with playgroup, with a group of moms and that had children that are deaf and hard of hearing. And my whole thing was, I just really wanted parents to be together and to learn from each other. I was learning from them, and they were, they were so grateful to be around somebody like myself that's deaf and hard of hearing, learning from me. And when I found Hands and Voices and found out there's an organization that does that, and I'm like, what? Where have you been? So it just was really already hitting home for me. Because when I found out my daughter, when she was born, my last one, and she didn't pass her hearing screening, I went through a myriad of emotions. I went through that anger. I went through that sadness. I went through the confusion, not understanding why, because I already had two typically hearing children. Never thought it would be passed on. And, it was a lot of emotions to process. And since I've been with Hands and Voices, it's like Tony, I think, mentioned earlier, was the fact that, you start learning about all these things that people feel and their thoughts and their concerns and their, even just sharing their journeys. It's like, it validates me, even looking back when she was born. It validates all the feelings that I had. It validates me as a mom, saying, it's okay that you were angry. It's okay that you didn't, that you were sad. It's okay, all those emotions that I had at the beginning that many parents, if not all parents, have. It really validates some of those emotions and that feelings of grief and that feeling of sadness. And that validation is so important for parents, because we all want to do the best we can. And, just in general, raising a child is extremely tough. So when you have a child that has other needs, you kind of want to dive in and dig in even more and provide even more, and sometimes maybe even overcompensate. But having organizations like this and connecting to other parents is so rewarding. And I learn every day from you guys, and I'm impressed more and more by all of you. And I couldn't be more grateful to be in this position to lead you guys and to lead with you and continue to serve families in the state of Arizona. I look forward to what we can continue to do. I'm going to stop before I start crying. I do want to ask if anybody on the screen that is joined in on Zoom has any questions or any comments. I know we have one parent on with us. If you'd like to share anything or ask any question, go ahead and just open up your video. Nobody? Okay. Um, so I just want to kind of close off with one thing before we do go. If I could just point out, because I didn't want to continuously talk about myself, but I'm going to now since nobody had anything to say. So the one of the most validating things for me with my journey for my daughter and for her journey is seeing the difference. Because I remember being, I remember being 4 years old. I remember the first day they put hearing aids on me. I remember hearing the birds for the first time, the cars making noise for the first time. So I have very clear memories from being age 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And I remember the kind of person I was and being very reserved and shy and didn't, put myself out there. And I look at my daughter now who's about to turn 7. And over the last several years, she's always had a very strong personality. And she's very open and loud and proud about, the fact that she wears hearing aids. And she'll tell people, my mom and I both wear hearing aids. If we don't have them on, we can't hear. Or she'll say something, we take our hearing aids off, bam, we can't hear, but good thing we can talk with our hands. Just those are those moments of joy that I celebrate because it means that I'm doing something right, that at her age, that's her moment of being self advocate for herself, is talking about it. When she's at school, she's able to let her peers know, let her teacher know, hey, my battery's dead. I didn't do those things at that age. I just let it go, and I just let myself miss out. So that's what being a part of Hands and Voices and being empowered and sharing experiences with each other has done for my daughter and her journey. So with that, I'm going to ask one more time. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Go ahead, Tony.
Just to let the people that watch the playback know, or even people that are watching that come later or that are watching now, that's what we're here for. There are guides in Tucson, there are guides in Phoenix, there are guides all around nationally. If you know a family, if you have friends, if you know someone who needs us, who might be interested in referring a family, we have a referral tool on our website. We can reach out to families, we can share videos, we can share resources. It doesn't necessarily have to be like Zoom or face-to-face or even a phone call. It can be a text, it can be an email. We're doing this so that families know who we are, know what we can offer and what kind of resources we can put you in connection to, whatever it is. Even if it's a late night and you just had a bad audiology appointment, or you're struggling with anxiety about whatever it is, reach out. We're here, Spanish and English. You can reach out to the deaf guides if you have a question, if your child is struggling with things. That's what we're here for. So we just wanted to do this live to let you know we're here. We're available to you.
Thank you so much, Tony, for saying that and wrapping that up very nicely. So that with that said, like she said, go to our website. You can request a guide. You can email me. All of our contact information is on the website, www.azhv.org. And just know you're not alone. We're here, and we're here for you if you need us. Thank you all. All right, everybody. Thank you. We have stopped the Facebook live stream. I appreciate all of you. You can come back onto the screen real quick. I know Petula's probably like spent.
She needs a massage.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. And Cindy, thank you so much for joining us. I hope that kind of gave you a little insight to each of us. We all have different journeys, different experiences, different thoughts. But yeah, I'm gonna cry because you guys all opened up very nicely tonight and shared a little bit of yourselves. That there's a little piece of each of you that I learned. So it was very nice to see that, and I'm sure with that being a post on Facebook, it'll be nice for families to be able to click on that as they need to or want to, and to play that back. That's going to be very helpful, I think, and it'll help help people without us even realizing that we're helping them. So that's going to be nice. Any final comments or questions now that we're not live?
I do have a question.
Go for it.
So how do we get, like, I'm trying to find families that we could get connected with that not only like have children of hearing loss, but besides like people who work with Hands and Voices, but also like to be able to connect like my daughter with other children who are maybe similar to her. She has one friend who I believe we got connected maybe through Hands and Voices, or I'm not really sure, but she's like profoundly deaf, cochlear implants, homeschooled, very different situation than my mainstream child who didn't lose her hearing until much later in life. And so like, I know everyone's journey is never going to be the same as my daughter's, but something that like similar age, a girl, like those type of things where she can be like, oh, hey, I'm not the only person who is going through this, who's mainstreamed and goes to a regular school, and maybe the only child at their school that has some sort of hearing impairment.
So it's tough because your daughter's like she's officially a teenager actually today, right? Her birthday. I was about to say preteen. I'm like, wait, no. Yeah, so that's tough. I will say that some opportunities might be with some of right now it's hard because of everything that's happening. There's nobody's doing events, nobody's doing connections, getting together, that kind of thing. Because I'm trying to think, I know they're the ones that have teenagers or middle age group that I know of are all CI so far. Najwa, what are your
So I think, Cindy, I think your question was really how does that process work? Like if you want to connect with other people. And so what I would say is, okay, so now we know that, and we put it out there to our families, to the providers we work with. Like we know a lot of the speech therapists, a lot of the audiologists say, hey, do you have a family in this age range? And we'll make that connection for you. So, you just ask, and then we'll find those people. And even if it's not a connection here, and maybe she Zooms with a family, we have a whole network of families with kids all over. Like I said earlier, my kids Zooming with other families in other states, California, Nebraska. It's nice to make that connection because they are seeing like different experiences, different states, but they can call each other, they can write each other, they can Zoom each other. But we have a Yahoo group. We're like, hey, who has a kiddo in this age group with this situation? And you'll have 10 people be like, oh, we have one. And then we would just make that connection for you. So just knowing what you want and us putting it out there, and then we kind of connect you that way. So that's the best way I would say to do that. So you're looking basically for someone who's around that middle school age, a female, cochlear implants, mainstreamed.
No cochlear.
Well, she doesn't have cochlear implants.
No,
we have a friend who does have cochlear implants. So this girl, why can't I think of her name?
It's a different experience. Right.
It's very different because her hearing is so profound, and she's been had severe hearing loss since birth. And not that I'm looking for someone specifically, details of Mercedes, losing her hearing at whatever age, but looking at my daughter, nobody at school or anyone looks at her and sees that she has hearing loss because she has her voice, and her voice is clear. And there's no change in her voice that would make it, like someone would be like, oh, she's got some hearing loss. There's nothing like that. So it's very isolating for her.
Yeah.
Being the only student at her school in a mainstream situation, and heading to high school, not this coming year, but in a year or so, I'm sure that's not going to be much different there either.
Yeah, we can help you make that connection.
Tony.
Just listening to her talk about like her specific daughter, like communication style, and how I just saw something on the national website. I'm trying to find it. It's like a pilot type thing that they're running. There it is. It says from ASDC. It's called Sign On,
Oh,
and
yeah.
That might be something that could interest her if she wants to, but it costs money a month. That was the only thing. It's called Sign On Connect, and it's called Friends Like Me. So it's a virtual kind of like a hangout thing, and they do it in clusters. So they do like K through first, I think, and then like second to third. And so it would be her specific age group and her specific communication style. So they have like a total communication, they have an ASL only, they have a voice only, and they would put them in groups with a deaf mentor within their communication style that she could like chat with, and they do games and do things like that. And I looked into it, but there's a cost associated with it. But that's something that I saw the other day. It is on the website. I can forward it to Heidi, and Heidi can send it to you if you want. Personally,
it's essentially like the pen pal idea. So it's like a video pal, and you're connecting with other kids just like you. And like she said, they put you together according to age group and communication style, things like that. I've had people that were part of that when it was free, when they were piloting it, and there was great feedback from it. The kids love it. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what the cost was now. I don't think it was.
I think I read it was like $38 a month. So I thought that was a little steep, to be honest with you. I mean, but
yeah, because I know a lot of people were not happy about all of a sudden there being a cost. So, but I can forward that information to you just for you to have in the back of your mind if you check it out and you end up being something that you might want to look into. But in the meantime, like Nedra said, we'll put some feelers out and put in contact with people that we know to hopefully put you in connection with somebody. Delight, you had a suggestion? We don't want to take we don't take too much longer. I want to give Petula a moment. It's a lot for one interpreter, more than an hour, so we're going to kind of wrap it up if we can. Go ahead, Delight.
Okay. I was saying I've seen sometimes people post on Hands and Voices, the group pages. They actually go on and say, my kid is so and so this age, and I'm looking for friends. Can anybody connect me? And usually they reach out to everybody in the country. I've seen some they've been able to connect with the same age group or communication styles. You might want to try that.
So yeah, I'll keep in touch with you, Cindy. I have your info, so whatever I get, I'll pass that along to you. Okay? All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right. Again, thank you all. I can't express enough how much I appreciate all of you. Great job. And the work you continue to do for families is amazing. And I'm thankful for each and every one of you. So with that, we'll say goodnight. Bye, guys. Lisa, are you going to be able to stay on for a minute?